Monday, and still in quarantine, still doing the whole thing. Not my favorite uh, at all, but it's what's going on, so we're dealing with it. I wanted to just take a second to do a quick update. Today is going to be probably a much shorter stream, but I had a personal experience this morning that I kind of wanted to share with everyone. Uh, and I made a post about this personally as well and tried to share it publicly, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit here. Um, this morning I spoke on the phone with New Hampshire Unemployment. I've been in touch with them weekly to try and get updates on what's going on with benefits and when all of that's going to roll out. And each time I talk to them, it's kind of vague. And this time when I got them on the phone, I was like, okay, I'm going to use this opportunity to try and get some legitimate numbers and information that I can share with folks. So I want to just sort of start off reading the contents of sort of what I found out from them. Um, they are they originally were getting about 500 claims a week. They're now getting upwards of 30,000 claims a week. Those are just new claims. The continued claims, they were seeing about 30,000 continued claims per week, and now they're over 100,000 per week. So that's the baseline volume that NHES is dealing with right now. 1/3 of their staff currently is out because of COVID-19. They're at home taking care of their families or doing whatever. Now, at most, they have 120 staff members, so that knocks them down to 90 people working. There's only 90, essentially only 90 staffers able to work currently. I don't know if I got lost there for a minute, but so there's, yeah, it looks like I'm having some stream health problems. I've been having some streaming issues today, so I'll try and just keep this brief. Um, Gosh, where was I? Okay, yeah, so we're talking about like maybe 90 staffers at best, which is alarming. And the office I spoke to had 6 people working in it. The woman I spoke to said that they are able to process between 8 and 20 claims per day. That depends on how complicated the case is. Obviously, there's subjectivity involved in that. So that's something else to consider, is that there's not everybody is dealing with the same thing. She let me know that a claim that has no problems, that's good to go basically from the outset, will probably take about 2 weeks to process all on its own under normal conditions. If you were going for self-employment, you're looking at multiple weeks from when you initially filed. And that's just to get through your claim. That doesn't have anything to do with when they actually get to it. So you're talking about a lag time between when you start and then when you actually like the process itself will take a while, but you got to wait for the process itself to start. So that's going to elongate everything. There are like maybe 10 people in the wages unit, 12 to 15 people in the adjudication unit. The exact quote I got was, there is no way to predict this. There is no way to predict when people will see their benefits. So that's alarming. It's really not great. And I don't know what to say about it beyond, that's the challenge that that we face with this. They told me that 30 to 40% of the employees there work part-time. So these aren't even people holding down full-time hours as it is, right? Like, that's that's alarming. Um, let's see here. I'm having some buffer problems. Uh, this is unfortunate. I'm not sure if this stream is gonna work today, folks. I'm just not. I don't know. Maybe YouTube's overloaded. Maybe I'm having some technical problems on my end. No, it looks like we're getting back to it a little bit. Maybe I'm not entirely sure. Hmm. Forgive the moment here is like trying to do engineering at the same time as I'm trying to do the covering. So, all right, it looks like we're back up. So if you're having problems with your buffer, just skip back in the stream a little bit and try and wait for it to catch up. I know that it's annoying, but I don't know what to do about it right now. I guess everybody's on the internet this morning. Zoom must be a mess. So yeah, at any rate, where was I? Okay, so yeah, 35 to 40% of these people are part-time workers, and they offer no working from home option. So there's no system in place for the employees that do currently work for them to be able to do any kind of interaction or helping from a distance. This all has to be done at the physical offices themselves. And as I'm saying, there's only 6 people in the office that I talked to. That's for today. That's a Monday, right? So at best, you're getting like at best, let's say every single one of those people was able to process everything, right? You're only getting through 120 claims that day, right? That's it. Like in the best case scenario, assuming that all 6 people in that office are able to this is to get an idea to folks of just how serious this issue is. It's like this is like, and my biggest problem here, right, is that nobody's talking about it from this perspective of this is what the worker has to go through, or this is what the person who's waiting on the check reads, right? So the example to give for this, that I would sort of like, I would want to share is, yeah, okay, so here we go. Well, I'll hop over to some content now, and we'll start getting into this, because this is pretty serious. Okay, so here we go. This article is shared from New Hampshire Business Review. I'm pulling this up from the Ledger transcript, so if you want to read it, you can go and check it out there, specifically. But this article is talking about essentially the same thing that I'm talking about right now. We're talking about like these climbing job numbers, and they have something that's a bit more specific than what I got, mainly because I'm just calling into a random, calling into some field office and asking a rep that's talking to customers all day, hey, tell me about your specific numbers. She's not going to know exactly. So, I mean, and I would love to see people do more reporting on it from this perspective, but I just don't think that's where their interests lie. At any rate, so, our guy here is he's sort of giving us all these flat numbers that we're looking at. All in all, nearly 97,000 new claims were filed from March 16th to April 4th. So I mean, and I'm saying we're over 100,000. That was as of the 4th. We're now almost 10 days after that. So things have gone a lot more awry since then. Yeah. At any rate, the national numbers were, okay, so we're now up to 16.8 million. That's pretty dang serious. But this article itself really is talking about sort of like, this is how bad it is for the economy. This is, this is what the unemployment rate is. These are these big, broad numbers. And you know what? Like, my thing is, I just don't care. Like, honestly, I personally could totally care less what I mean, it's not like it doesn't matter. Obviously, that is an important number that you need to, we obviously want to know the unemployment rate, but right now the situation is so dire for people that are just trying to get by and like get groceries for today, that like oh, we're looking at things evening out on the unemployment like, okay, cool. You know what? Most people that I know still are not getting their benefits and are starting to get really hungry and concerned and worried about when their stuff, their bills are going to go due. I mean, like, for many people this could mean, you know, they might not even see the money that they need to until after the time brackets of stay at home and forgiveness orders have expired. You know what I mean? What if the moratorium on rent, or evictions, I guess, because there's nothing to do with rent assistance, but what if the moratorium on evictions goes up before people start receiving these benefits? What happens then? Right? So these are real pressing matters for folks that are just trying to get through every day right now, that are trying to make sure they meet their rent or their mortgage or pay their bills, or, like, I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. Everybody's got their own thing, and I would say honestly that all of it is equally important to everyone. There's no one that gets any more weight than anyone else. And it's just disheartening to see that, like, if I hunt around and try and find an article on NHPR or WMUR or wherever, no one talks about it from this perspective. No one talks about, here's how long the average worker could have to wait. And not in terms of, like, I don't want to say, there's, obviously we have that quote of there's no way to predict. Well, yeah, there's no way to predict, but there is a good way to establish a frame of expectation. And I want to let people know that, like, this is really, really quite worse. There's no getting around the reality of this situation. And as much as we may want to tell ourselves good bedtime stories about how things will, we can snap back and we can try and get back to where things were, maybe even by early summer. I'm sorry. It just the way things are playing out, I don't see any of that going down. I do not personally, in an analytical sense, if I'm to step back and try and, like, I don't want to project too much on it, but I personally cannot see a path to which we're out of this and this is a problem that's solved and we don't face a lot of homelessness and a second really bad wave, maybe even a third. This is really not good. Okay, so I want everybody to understand the repercussions of that. Not to mention, there's plenty of coverage about just how taxed the postal service is right now through all of this. They're really, really, really just overloaded, and we're looking at, a potential collapse of the U.S. Postal Service by September. So I don't know how we're gonna deal with voting in that capacity, much less getting people's unemployment checks to them. And that's just unemployment. That doesn't mention the $1,200 that's promised to each American, which also has caveats attached to it as well. College students get no benefit from that, which is a shame, and just it's obviously disgusting that we would say they're somehow less deserving. I don't understand that personally. I think you give it to everybody or you don't. That's just my attitude on it, though. At any rate, to me, this stuff really matters because of how, just how deeply it's gonna affect the lives of people. Like, watching a national unemployment percentage tick up or down means nothing to the daily lives of people here in this town. What means something to people in this town is whether or not their direct deposit kicks in and they get that check, or they, unemployment makes it to them in the mail. Like, that's what matters to people right here, right now. I like, any partisan anything aside, like, this is what this is about. I think there's a top-down view is just it's boring and pointless, in my opinion. It's just, there's really no use for it. So yeah, whatever, it's what it is, and we're just gonna kind of move on with it. we'll just keep going. I'll try and keep updates if I can. Hopefully I can talk to some people about this and get some more perspectives related to how different groups of people are dealing with this problem. That's definitely something that I want to try and dig in on a little bit more. So hopefully I can come back with some of that information as we just go down the line. Obviously everybody's, we can hop into coronavirus numbers right now for the state. We'll just sort of do the sweep of the sites and get that covered for right now, which I think is just it can help. It can be good for folks to just sort of have an overview of it sometimes. So we're knocking on that door of 1,000 persons with COVID-19 in New Hampshire. We're really close, only 15 cases away, so we'll probably hit that today. In all likelihood, we've had 23 deaths overall, amounting to 2%. So that's a drag. That sucks. We want nobody to die, obviously. So, 152 people have been hospitalized, so we're looking at 15%. Here in Peterborough, we now are reporting our first case on the actual map itself. So if we expand this and look, we now have reporting case. I know that there was an additional case, so that may put us up to 2. One of them not being listed here because perhaps that person didn't get testing or something to that effect, and they were just told to quarantine at home and not come in. That it sounds like they met the criteria, but they just weren't going to run the test. Whatever. I don't know the exact story on that. If I am able to get more details on that as things come along, I'll do that for folks. But for now, I just got to kind of leave that where it is. We are definitely one of the worst counties, although it's as we can see, the heaviest concentration really is out towards Manchester and Nashua. That's where everybody's really getting hit the hardest with it. So, and if we bounce along, we're looking at sort of this data is a bit older and not showing us present information. So, we were looking at about 4 to 8 deaths per day, and they haven't added this new information in yet. So this site will be useful as we go along, but we do see exact numbers on how many beds we have, how many beds we need, all of this stuff. There's a great resource right here. If we hop over to, losing this again. Let's try and reload it. Okay, so here we we can look at New Hampshire in relation to other states. We do continue to do well. We're seeing this somewhat flatten out a bit. Which is good. That we're managing our curve. That's nice to see, especially in more rural areas where people are able to maintain that distancing in a better way. It's kind of easier for folks. So I think that's always a positive thing to see. Unfortunately, in contrast, our whole country is doing horribly. And, people may want to talk about how we're doing better, but honestly, it still goes up. We are not flat. We are flattening, but we are not flat. And if we were to hop to what our advisories are and what projections are related to based off of the COVID Act Now site, we're right here, and we're really sitting on that line of like it really depends what happens in the next week or two, what we do. I know that people say that every week, but we'll be well into these curves by the end of April, and that's going to be a telltale. So I think it's people in the news want to do this weird thing where they scare the heck out of you, and then they're trying to be optimistic at the same time. And I don't think either of those tacks are great. Like, because I don't think it's good to be negative, and I'm trying to do less negativity here on the show. I'm trying to think about things from a more positive perspective, even when it's kind of grim news. Um, because I know that in the related to unemployment. Well, excuse me, folks. Related to unemployment, there's a lot of resources available to people in town. There's a lot of help that's being done. It matters. It's making a difference for folks right now, and communities are coming together to make things happen and keep people fed and stocked up and all that. So we've got a lot of good local resilience to this. That's definitely been a big component of why some of our more rural communities here in New Hampshire are less hard hit than what we would be expecting to see happen in places like Appalachia or the Midwest, where there might be a little less awareness about that stuff. So or just inherent care to monitor, like self monitor and protect. So we do have that going for us here, but again, we do sit on sort of a weird precipice, and it's about maintaining the social distancing. And when what I always think is like, the day they say you can go back out, I'm gonna give it a few weeks. I'm not gonna go right back out again. Like, I don't think that's a good idea at all, and I would imagine that many people in our community have a similar attitude, and I think that's probably healthy. So we're all just careful folks, and we all care about each other. And I had spoken with Karen Hatcher, and the way she put it was, we want no one to die. We want no one in our community to die. We want 0 deaths. We have 0 deaths right now. We don't even have more than 3 or 4 reported cases. Like, we're only at maybe 1 or 2 reported cases. We have a chance to have this not ravage our community, and that's worth something. So that's the way I think that we'll be able to see our local officials approach that from now moving forward. I know that the local, like the Facebook live streams that the town has been doing of the select board meetings, those have been really, really well attended. And so to a point where we're getting more people showing up to the online streams than people were actually coming to the real meetings, which is, that's just great. It's awesome that we have that community engagement. So at any rate, yeah, I think we stand a good chance here. This community does. In the face of what we're dealing with, we do have this. There was news here in the Ledger transcript. Conval parents are happy with communication, but concerned about the well-being of their students and their kids as they remain sort of cooped up in spaces. And this is going to be one of the biggest things that we all really need to kind of like hone ourselves in on as we stay cooped up like this, is like the mental health aspect of everything right now is tip top crazy important. Like, woo. I do not know how to emphasize that enough, that that mental health issues mental health services, resources, that needs to be like at pretty high at the top of our priorities list right now, because that's going to be where things struggle the most. It's pretty easy to set up a functional supply chain replacement. Obviously local businesses face the challenge of having to deal with setting up. Green Grocer just managed to get their online store set up, so now you can place orders and do curbside pickup there. Roy's has their thing going on. Obviously, we're able to do we have supply chain solutions that is they're more I don't know. I've been trying to think or speak less in terms of metaphors lately, but it seems more quantitative to just, you know, they're hard numbers. It's physical goods. It's easy to measure, so it's easy for us, or easier for us to come up with a way to maintain a supply chain. But to maintain a service that really requires in-person interaction and care and handling that's done right, that's a lot harder. And for certain people, you know, a Zoom meeting is like a video chat does not remotely suffice when it comes to replacing an in-person meeting. And then on top of that, you've got hospitals that are overloaded, so people can't go to the hospitals to get treatment if they really need to, particularly with mental health services. This is even harder. You know what I mean? Hotlines do not work for everyone. So at this point in time, it's really, really important that you reach out to the people that are closest to you, people that you care about, and you, if you think somebody that you know might be struggling, or they might be having a hard time because they might not have as many people in their life, or if there's anybody that just sort of pops in your head, reach out to folks. This really is the time to do that. This is the time to get in touch with people, because that's going to be one of the only ways that we can maintain positive and robust mental health in our population, in our kids, in our families, in our own homes, just for ourselves in general. It's a big deal. So I think that's a huge emphasis. I won't dig too deep into this article. I will try and share it. The article that I've just bumped up about parents happy with the communication, the work that Conval has done to set things up. We've managed to get Wi-Fi out to some families now, where most things are now over 95 or 98% covered. So Conval has done a really good job getting to the table and making that happen. So that's super nice to see that's what's going on. And we should be proud of our school district for really rising to the occasion, just as much as we should be proud of our local communities. And we can absolutely look forward to seeing, you know, now that spring is coming around, we're definitely going to have a lot of farmers market stuff going. There's going to be good produce, local food. So that we'll able to really dive into certain self-sustainability here in our local rural communities as these warmer months kick off, and that'll provide a certain amount of resiliency for us on a local level against the economic effects that would really be wrecking our local economy. And I think the flip side of that is that I do want to sort of talk to some of our more cared for business owners and leaders in town that, you know, and try and figure out, you know, how can we make sure that they don't, if, you know, businesses like that we really care about, that we don't lose them going out of this, however long it may take. So that's just stuff to keep in mind. And, you know, let's see. I mean, with that, I don't, you know, like, honestly, I think I'm going to call it for today. I don't think I'm going to keep going on this right now, mainly because I will probably do a separate stream at some point where I get into more national stuff. I have definitely had a number of disagreements with folks lately online. They always seem way more vicious and mean in text, which sucks. And I wish that we could have real in-person conversations or debates about these topics, because I feel like a lot of the tone and intention gets lost in translation when you're trying to go from what would normally be a healthy debate between two people sharing ideas, and then what turns into just a big row on Facebook. It's just not great. So, but there are some things sort of like I know that people have reacted poorly to some of the things that I've been saying about, or some of the positions that I've been trying to articulate, uh, things that I think people need to consider about national politics going into the general election this coming year. I think there's a lot of things that need to be said about that, and I could honestly do a whole episode just on that stuff. And I'm not going to get into it beyond just sort of saying like I intend to take care of this and it will be covered. I'd like to have it be more of a discussion, so I'm going to try and have somebody come on and have it be more of a back and forth. We discuss it and try and process that a little better. But we'll get there when we get there. As for right now, become a patron. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit the bell for the notifications so that whenever I do one of these live streams or pop up here, you'll get hit up and you can just kind of put it on wherever you're at. It's always benefits. So yeah, and with that, I just I just want to thank everybody who's sort of been supportive of what we're doing and reached out over the past few weeks. You know, I know that it's been hard for me to keep it regular. I think there's a lot of weird dynamic going on just in general that makes it hard to keep rhythm, and it's just something I'm always working on and something that I hope to get better about. So as we move forward, doing stuff and making things happen, I do hope to introduce a level of consistency in these streams so that we're not always just kind of like, hey, here's a last minute thing, that. So at any rate, we'll do that, and then we'll also get into some more music stuff. We'll get into some more art stuff. I know that I keep saying that we're gonna do that stuff, and it just never quite happens. But believe it or not, there is stuff in the pipeline to make those things happen, and that will be coming up. So with that, thanks everybody so much for tuning in. It's or not, if you're just catching this after the fact. I know we've had a lot of live stream problems today, so I hope that's not a super big problem on the pre-recorded, like the recording afterwards. Yeah, so at any rate, thanks a bunch, folks. Cheers, and we'll catch you soonish, I suppose. So have a good